Hi, I'm Francois from Production Music Live, today with Producer Notes, and we're taking a look at the style of Danish producer NOHR, who has been going viral on Instagram, promoting his track You via Reels. And we have a track here in Ableton, only using Ableton stock effects and instruments plus Serum 2, modeled after this track, different harmonies, different sounds, different samples. And it's fully arranged, lasting around 4 minutes, with a break part here in the beginning. And then a drop part. And a second part of the drop where we hear these LFO Plucks. And then another break, a bridge, a drop, and another main drop and an outro. So this is the arrangement structure roughly here. We have a bunch of groups. We have a drums group here, sounds like this. Very simple and straightforward at 132 BPM. And we have a bass group, more crunchy. And then we have this instruments group here with the plucks and some pads. And then we have a white noise effect down there. These are the elements. This is a project file that's part of the Afterflow Melodic House Sound Pack here, linked in the description. And this one is available for Serum and Serum 2. So Ableton Live 11.1 or higher and Serum 2, this is what we're using, or Serum 1, both works. And so let's go through the elements one by one here, taking a look at our drums first. So we have this deep kick sound. This is what it sounds like. It's also in the samples part of this pack down here. You will find it in MH4 kick 002 G alone. This one serves here nicely, and it goes together with this deep clap, which is called Perk here, a sample from Deep Premium Volume 2 sample pack. And we're just emphasizing on the high information here, but rolling off higher end information as well. And then there's this double clap here. Super straightforward. Then in the cymbals, we have a closed hi-hat sound. Like 120 milliseconds long, but actually it's like the information stops here at like 50 milliseconds. And this one is sitting in the offbeat position, so in position 113. And now we have a late shaker, which sort of adds the groovy feel here to this one. And you can see, so this is position 3, and this would be position 4. Or here would be position 4, but our shaker is already starting a bit early, and then like that's how it comes in. And it's heavily EQ'd here to sort of match the reference track. Like super late. Sounds almost wrong, but works super nicely here in the overall groove. And then we have this late tom. So there's our drumming, and this late tom here is slightly thrown through a delay with the Haas effect to make it a bit wider. This more centered. And now we're sending it to left and right. So it's a bit wider, the sound. And overall, this is our drum groove. Don't really need much more than that here. And then we already can go to our bass group. Overall, there's a big fat sidechain on the entire group. You will hear the ducking effect when we are playing the bass or the sub bass here. So these are the notes we are playing here. And if we are taking a look at the sound, so this is our sound setup. We have a 3 octaves down sub oscillator with sine wave, also a saw wave here, and we also have a bit of a mixture with 5 voices for crunch on top, if I'm turning those off. Like width, slightly detuned. That's how the sub is put together, and on top we have this crunchy mid element. And what does that look like? The saw wave with a slow envelope here. MG low 18 decibels per octave filter. And let's take a look at the effects. We are rolling off low and below 235 Hertz, leaving room for the subs. And with the mod wheel we can drive up the filter drive. So that's what's going on here, both together. And you can see every now and then we are driving up the filter drive here at the end of the pattern. Okay, going over to the instruments, this one also has a heavy sidechain on the group, and you'll hear that when we are playing it without the kick. You might hear some clicks here, so let's go into this pluck saw first. Let me turn this one off quickly. And so what do we have here chord wise? So we're starting with a quick B flat major chord. And then falling into an A flat major. And that sounds always interesting if you like quickly change your chord in like within the first bar. Makes your pattern interesting somehow. And then we are following up with an F minor and with a C minor here at the end. So we have B flat major, A flat major, and then F minor, and then C minor. And like the third is always brought up. So if I would take this one down an octave, you can see this is an F minor. Has this minor quality to it. If I like open up the scale and we really see all the notes here, we can quickly do that, and you can see we have a minor third in between F and A flat, and then a major third, 3 semitones in between A flat and C. Has a sad sort of melancholy minor feeling, and now this is brought up an octave. Just beautiful. So this is what's going on here. Very nice chord progression, always works wonderfully, and you could argue we are either in C minor in the scale or in some B flat Mixolydian scale, depends a bit on how you interpret this. And let's now go on and see what's supporting, or let's actually look at the sound first quickly. So we have a simple saw wave here, and we're running that through a filter, and this is what the envelopes look like that control the cutoff a little. And then we are sending it through some 6 seconds decay reverb here and rolling off some low end. Not the most crazy sound, so let's go on to the next one. And this one here is just supporting the mids below this. Playing the bass note, the root note of each chord, and it's just a sine wave. Also with an envelope like this. So that's what's going on here. Nothing really to worry about. Then we also have this pad. Same notes, same chord structure here. And this one is just chill in the background. Also a saw wave, unison 7 voices through a filter, and then we're running some, throwing some reverb on top, taking out the lows. Don't really need to do much here. And this one is just trimming 8 decibels per octave and controlling for the mix. So these are just, you know, side pieces in our orchestra. And now we can go to the main sound, which is this one here, which is heavily automated. our plug LFO saw type thing. So let's take a look at this setup here. We also have a saw wave, one voice on that one. But now we're we're controlling several things. We are using macro 1 to control the rate of LFO 1 here. This is kind of like how fast the thing is moving. And then the next question is, what is LFO 1 controlling? Now this one is going to filter 1 frequency. So the cutoff frequency of this low pass filter is being controlled by LFO. LFO 1. Okay, then we have modulation 2 in macro 2 here, which controls the LFO bus 1, which affects how much the LFO is being applied. So how much do we actually put this effect on? It's more smooth or more drastic. And you can see that in the matrix here. We can control that also by the amounts that we are using here. This is how it's set up. More harsh and more smoothly. And then we have LFO depth here in macro 3, which controls how deep this LFO goes into, like, wherever it's going, in this case into the filter. So it's not applied if I'm going to the beginning. Then we're just playing the notes. If I'm putting it all the way up, it's... Okay, so, and that's what we're playing around with here in our automations. This is what's moving around. Now you can also hear a bunch of effects on top. So we have this hyper dimension expansion, or the unison up here, dimension expansion actually down, and the decay of our reverb is set to 6 seconds. The mix is up to like 28%. Size is at 50%. And then also we have an EQ here. Just slightly boosting, but nothing crazy. Most important effect here is our reverb. And then a bit of detuning. Okay, so this is our sound that we're playing here. And also we have the mod wheel, which goes to filter frequency and the resonance. And we're bringing that up over time every now and then, as you can see down here in this modulation curve. And also here pretty heavily. So super nice sound. We have another one of those pretty much similar in the break part, which is Pluck Saw 3 and sounds like this. It's just a lot brighter. So let's take a look at that one as well. So this sound is brighter. Let's take a closer look. What we can see, we are automating like the fine tuning here with LFO 1. We also go into LFO 2, and this one controls the filter frequency. Again, here an MG low 18 decibels per octave filter. Here we have a saw wave again. And then in this case, our macros are doing slightly different things. So we have the filter cutoff here in macro 1. We have a bit of distortion and some EQing from the effects in macro 2. So macro 2 brings in distortion and brings in a bit of this EQ here. So let me actually like take it up. So it brings that crispy crunchiness to the sound. This is what macro 2 is doing. Then we have macro 3, which is controlling the rate of LFO 2. So how much, how fast does that move the filter cutoff around? And that's how it's set up. This is the fastest setup here. And then also we have another mod wheel, which goes to the filter frequency. So if we bring that up, also opens up that more brightness in the filter. So back to the effects, we also have a reverb on top here, which is almost 7 seconds long in this case, mixed in 40%. And that's our effects setup already here. This is envelope 1, envelope 2 looks like this, not really needed here. And then most importantly, we are using these two LFOs. And if we go to the matrix, you can see LFO 1, this one controls the A oscillator A fine tuning and sort of the pitch in that sense. That's what gives it this unstable feel to the sound. Yeah, and we are playing the same chord progression here, just a little up higher. And then this gets supported by, what is this? This pluck, clicky, blippy melody thing. Super nice if we play it together. Just brings in the vibes here. And again, this is a saw wave and has a short envelope here looking like that. And if we go to the effects, we have a bit of delay on top of this one, ping pong delay with a longer feedback. Going from left to right. This is the setup of the reverb, and also we have a little bit of distortion here, tube distortion. But very straightforward, and also important, it has the unstable fine pitch effect here as well. And then it's just playing an octave up here. Yeah, but that's a powerful sound right there. We're rolling off high end and low end here on that sound, and we're layering that in just with our pluck. And below that, we also have a supporting element, which is this pad saw. You just need a bunch of those for your Atmos, for the background. This is nothing crazy. And you have a slower attack time for this one here to blend in nicely, and the filter goes down a bit more. Longer release times and sustain, so it remains in the background nicely. And then we also have these chords that add a bit of crunch. Bit of overdrive on that sound here as well. Again, saw wave, again run through a filter, in this case 12 decibels per octave, so we're leaving through a bit more that we can crunch up then, but we're also rolling off high-end information and low-end information, so that thing remains in the middle of the frequency spectrum. No major surprises on these sounds, that's why I'm going on. And if we take a quick look at what's going on here in this break part, there's more the plucky type chord setup. And that's a, unison set to 4 voices again on a saw wave here. And we are also leaving room for a bit of attack on our sound here, controlling the cutoff filter for the initial pluck. Also supporting that with this LFO that opens it up at the beginning, so for the pluck, pluck. And then we're just keeping the sustain open, so it's remaining a pad. If we bring it down, it's a pluck. That's how that works here, and nothing fancy or crazy other than that. And now in the second drop part, we have this slightly pitched, unstable pluck thing here at the end sometimes. So this guy. So this is also a saw wave run through a low pass filter. Again, envelope set to plucky in this case, and we're just using the pitch bend here to bring that slightly up every now and then, Okay, and we also have a pad here in the background. These are now can be considered as Atmos. This one filling higher frequencies with 7 voices. You can see it's almost always the same patch here. It's the same inputs, bit of a filter on top, and then we're just moving around the shapes of the envelopes, and sometimes we're increasing the decay on the reverb, but we're always making sure we're cutting off low-end information to not like mess up the mix. And we are not playing all the notes here. We're just playing, you know, a bunch of them, a bunch of the chord progression higher up for, you know, the crisp. And this one is just playing all the way through the C, our root note here, if we are considering to be in C major overall. And then we have this Atmos thing here. It's just always using the second position of each bar to add in a plucky thing. With 16 voices, 7 voices here. And that's how we are filling up the frequency range at the end of the day. And now I'm bringing back this sidechain here as we are playing it all together. I had this off, and now they're being ducked at the beginning. So these are the elements gone through one by one. Here we have deep kicks, deep claps playing in the drums group. And then we have short closed hi-hats. A late shaker, that was super important. And also every now and then we are playing this tom. And then we have a very basic sub bass setup with a crunchy mid layer on top. And then our instruments group is filled with a whole bunch of layers. And then we have the defining element of this style, which are more these pluck source synths here that are sitting in the middle of the instruments group. Where we had a quick analysis on how this is set up with the LFOs and the rates. And this is the defining characteristic of the sound. You then have this ear candy adding a bunch of blips on top. And what also makes it interesting is the fact that we are starting with a chord and going right into the next one, right at the beginning. And also that's combined with the kick being kind of late and the bass just starting at the moment when the second chord actually hits. So this is arrangement wise quite interesting. So you can see here it's free, no bass, and then whenever that chord is being hit and the second one is being played, then only we start with the bass as well. The kick is kind of late too, so it's sort of breeze after every loop. So it's simple and clean and has these nice textures on top. A super cool style that's a lot of fun. You can also throw some vocals on top of this. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this little video about it. Feel free to check out the link in the description to the Afterflow sound pack, including this project file here and also 8 more project files. Also one in the style of Oskar Mad K and a bunch of other ones. A full sample pack in there as well with one-shots and loops. Feel free to check that out as well. And also feel free to check out the links in the description for our full Melodic House Academy, a course on how to write chords, music theory for electronic music production, melodic house, melodic techno. Feel free to check out vocals and drum sample packs, a full course on how to arrange your music, and also the PML Everything bundle, our best deal in the store. Great time of the year to pick that up during sale season. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll speak to you again soon, and now let's have a full playback of the track.